Honor to have our next guest in-house today, Jason Redman, former Navy SEAL, founder and spokesperson for Wounded Wear. He's also the author of The Trident, the forging and reforging of a Navy SEAL officer. Jason Redman, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Dave, I'm doing awesome. How are you guys today?
Yeah,
Hello, Hampton Roads.
All right, so Jason's got his kids dropped off, got his workout in this morning. So you're doing like the CrossFit kind of stuff? Is that what you're doing?
A little bit of CrossFit, trying to get a little more strength back on. I mean, 40 surgeries over years getting put back together. I'm just trying to put a little weight back on, get a little strength back on. And so, yeah, it's a mix of CrossFit and strength training.
I love seeing these guys at the gym who walk around and they've got what I call sway back, which is where their belly sticks out enough where they have to lean back a little bit to offset the weight in the front. But they're like, hey, man, I benched 410 today. All right, how many pull-ups can you do?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. So, it's that whole bench press thing. It only
I run a 16-minute mile.
That's right. I mean, the bench press thing, it really only matters if you find yourself underneath the Volkswagen and the axle just happens to be right across the front part of your chest. I mean, it's a good exercise, I understand, but getting wrapped up in the... how much you bench that day. It's a good Saturday Night Live skit is what that's about.
Back in the day, the old Hans and Franz.
That's right.
Going way back.
Pump you up, baby. All right. So for people who aren't familiar with Wounded Wear, I'm going to open it up to you, the history of that. Obviously, you have a personal connection with that and where it stands now.
Yeah, Dave, absolutely. Wounded Wear started back in 2009 and really fully got underway in 2010. It just started out providing free clothing modification to wounded warriors. We were driving that strong for years, expanded into events like Jumping for a Purpose and our signature black tie gala, Toast to the Heroes, which actually is coming up March 5th at the Portsmouth Renaissance. So anybody out there that would love to come to an amazing patriotic event,
great.
We'd love to have you. Expanded last year into the Combat Wounded Coalition just because we were doing so much more than just the clothing itself. So Wounded Wear is now a program, and the Combat Wounded Coalition is built on connecting wounded warriors to the other needs that they've identified, working with other good vetted groups that we know are putting their money where their mission is.
The focus that you had when you were in the teams, what does that transfer into civilian life?
It's been an interesting transition for sure. The military is a very structured environment, and I'll be honest, I think a lot of warriors can relate to this. I sometimes miss being on deployment, on a combat deployment. And people probably are like, oh my God, that's so crazy. You were in the war zone. But it is a very simple existence. You wake up, you eat, you figure out, hey, are we conducting a mission tonight? You plan for it, and you go execute it. And all the intricacies of life that we have, balancing everything, is gone. You are down to a very basic existence. And I miss that. You miss the camaraderie. You miss the brotherhood. The civilian world is a different world. It is great. There's so much opportunity. I've met so many amazing people, but there are also people out there that are only looking out for themselves. Sometimes they can't see the greater good. And that's been an interesting learning curve as I've gone through. So I learn every day, and I try and figure out, learn from missteps, and we drive forward and try and make the organization better and make a difference in the lives. I fought for this country. I believe so strongly in this country. So my mission now is, threefold. I want to take care of our wounded warriors. I want to make sure we have a strong country for my children and grandchildren. And third, I want to take the lessons that I learned and motivate and inspire other people to overcome the adversity they find.
Now, you had an op-ed that I greatly enjoyed in the Virginia Pilot. I think that was on January 24th. And in that, you were talking about something that probably doesn't get talked enough about in this area, given the high number of veterans we have here, and the focus on money that goes into the Defense Department and how much money is spent as a portion of our GDP in this area, which right now is down to below 40%. I think back in 2005 it was up around 49%. So the focus is a lot on money. We got to make sure we spend this amount of money. We got to get this project in and all the tertiary things like the shipyards. And in that op-ed that aired not this yesterday, but also about a week ago, you talked about the focus of the procurement process.
Yeah.
And you talked about making sure that money, and I call it garnishment, which would be tax dollars, money that is taken out of our paychecks, that it is used in a way that is not so much to line and to feather the nest of some private companies, but is used in a way that solely benefits those who have volunteered to wear our country's uniform.
Absolutely, you're dead on. I mean, the Department of Defense and our military, I mean, so many of my brothers and sisters that are out there serving, they raised their hand and they said, hey, I vow, to defend this country with even giving my own life. And that being said, we need to make sure that they have the best equipment, that they're taken care of the best. That's both during their time in the military, that's both after their time in the military. And there's so many programs out there that we've seen that are they're wasteful. Right now, I read a report this morning that the new F-35 strike fighter, that we may make 500 of these before they actually prove if it is a valid option for the future of the military. I mean, You're kidding me. How much money are we wasting in that? This push to have green fuel in future ships, that's going to cost $35 a gallon. Explain to me how that benefits me or the guy next to me to be safe on the battlefield.
$1.57. I'm coming into work this morning. $1.57 is what I saw at the gas pump. I know it's lower in some areas, and yet, as you $35 to put into the aircraft carrier and all of the other support ships when we have a glut of oil. I mean, a report I read last week is that the world is going to be drowning in oil for much of this year.
Exactly, and that's why the prices are dropping so much, which has been fantastic for many of us. But when you look at the military, we have the highest national debt in the history of this country, and it continues to grow at an astronomical rate. So, yet, the United States military is the one that continues to get cut. So many different programs have been cut. On the flip side of that coin, though, looking at where we're spending that money is absolutely critical. If we now have a smaller budget for the Department of Defense and our military programs, let's ensure it's going to those things that are going to save lives and help us win wars on the battlefield. Does green fuel do that? No, it doesn't. It's great for some programs out there, and I'm all about looking for new technologies to make us better. But when that new technology costs, 7 or 8, 15 times what the average going rate is right now for fuel, that makes 0 sense. Now's not the time to do that. Instead, take those dollars, make sure the guys, because guess what? We still have guys on the ground fighting these wars right now. We lost another guy a couple weeks ago in Afghanistan. People need to be aware of that. That money needs to be going them for both offensive and defensive capabilities on the ground.
Our guest this morning is Jason Redman. I've always said that people will disagree about how their tax dollars are used. You'll have a Democrat who's upset that it might be used for an initiative that the Republicans like, and vice versa. But that the only thing that people should expect is that their tax dollars, and keep in mind, tax dollars is the same as the money you worked really hard to make, is that your tax dollars are used efficiently. Isn't that the only expectation? You have no expectation that the money that you give over to the state or federal government is going to be used, that's going to be tailored to whatever your political philosophy is. You just want it to be used effectively. And you pointed out that in this op-ed that it is anything but.
Exactly. I mean, there's just so many programs out there that are over budget, that are, there's additional spending that's pushed into them to these programs, that it's benefiting companies, that it really isn't totally benefiting the Department of Defense. Programs that, maybe 20 years down the road. I am all about investing in technology, but we got to make sure it's the right time, especially when you're looking at tighter constrained budgets. You nailed it. We want to see efficient spending of our tax dollars. Every other household in this country has to live on a budget. We have limited dollars. We can't just increase spending. Yet the United States government continues to do that, and they just ratchet our debt up higher and higher and higher. The American people are the ones that are going to pay for it. We are paying for it. My children are going to pay for it. My grandchildren, at this rate, my great-grandchildren. So as veterans, it is our duty to stand up and say, hey, leaders of this country, you need to take care on all aspects, especially the Department of Defense. We have to be able to defend this country. We have to be able to take care of it when the threats from abroad, and we've seen a lot of threats over these last couple of years. The extremists threat, the extremist Islamist threat that we're seeing across the world, Paris, out in California, it is very real. I have witnessed it firsthand. And that's why we need to make sure these dollars are being spent in the right place.
Now, pragmatically, how does this move forward? I had somebody who wrote me an email over the weekend. Hey, Dave, please explain the primary and the caucus process. By the way, I know people who feel like their vote doesn't count. And what's even the purpose? You're up against lobbyists. You're up against a lot of money out there, and I completely disagree with that. You have one vote, and if you think it's lost in the shuffle, then fine, but at least you did your part. And if enough people don't do their part, then you're right. The republic is lost. So pragmatically, as an action statement to what you're talking about people being organized, about people, veterans, having some say about whether it's the procurement process or initiatives that they feel are important to them, how do they make that happen?
So I'm an advisor with a group called Concerned Veterans for America, and our focus is on making sure that the United States government takes care of our veterans. That is in their spending processes for active duty Department of Defense personnel and programs. That is for taking care of our veterans for the long term, holding the VA accountable. The VA is a train wreck right now. There's so much mismanagement. There's so much non-accountability for poor leadership at the highest levels, yet this current administration keeps to allow these things happen. It is up to us. It is up for the veterans to step up, and Concerned Veterans for America believes in that. And Friday night here in Virginia Beach at the Founders Inn, I encourage all veterans to come out, be a part of it. And it doesn't matter what your beliefs are. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. What I want to see, what I am encouraging, is for you to stand up and recognize something. When you raised your right hand to be in the military, you said, I take an oath for this nation, to defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And what we want to tell people is when you took off that uniform, your devotion to this country didn't end. You need to recognize that you have a tremendous voice. You are part of a very large, knowledgeable group of American individuals that sacrificed for this nation, and your voice counts. It makes a difference. So we want to have you out. We want to talk to you. Dave, you made a great point. I've heard a lot of guys say this, even veterans. As a matter of fact, in the last election, we estimate that only about 30% of veterans actually voted. So are they that disenfranchised that they're like, I don't believe in either of these guys, so I'm not going to vote? That is the wrong answer. Your ability to vote is the greatest gift given to a free nation. It is your ability to try and affect change at a high level with our elected officials. And we need you. And here's the thing. I will never tell you who to vote for. I will never say who I'm leaning for. I will only say this. This current election cycle is a little bit of a circus act, and I feel like they're getting worse and worse every cycle. But the bottom line is this. I went online and I took one of these, what are your political views quizzes.
Yeah.
And it told me, hey, these are the guys you align with the most. It said you align with this guy the most. Mm-hmm. Well, I looked at the difference out of the top 5 candidates on where I leaned. The difference was only about 1% per. So what I want to tell people is you need to look at how you can make a difference. And you may not identify perfectly with whoever becomes the front runner, but we need to make a difference. Cast that vote, because 70% of what you identify with is better than 100% of what you don't.
Nobody's ever going to find the perfect candidate. It amazes me that you have so many voters out there, and I understand that there are issues that are very, very important to people, whether it's something to do with climate change, whether it's something to do with veterans. Hey man, I'm going to pick the person who talks the strongest about that. But it's important for people to keep in mind that issue isn't going to be brought up every day by that potential president. There's a whole host of other issues out there. And the point is, nobody's ever going to find the perfect candidate.
Exactly. That's why politics has driven me a little crazy lately. We've created so much division in this country, and it's become this black and white thing.
Yes,
You're either with me or against me.
Right.
It's never going to be that way. We live in a world of gray.
Yes.
And you've got to figure out what's closer to your darker gray or your lighter gray, because this country is at a standstill right now. and we're just getting further and further divided. We need somebody, and we need the American people to say, okay, how can we bring this together? Concerned Veterans for America is about that. So I hope Friday night at the Founders Inn, if you were a veteran, even if you're not a veteran, if you were an amazing patriot, come out. We've got great speakers, great singers. Ayla Brown is an amazing singer. We've got Madison Rising, the most patriotic band in the country. If you have never heard the Star Spangled Banner, their rock version of the Star Spangled Banner, amazing. Cody McGregor, great Marine speaker. I'll be speaking. And the event, guess what? It is totally free. What's free in this day and age? So check it out. It's Concerned Veterans for America Defend Freedom Tour, Friday night, 6 p.m., Founders Inn.
Ayla Brown, that's the daughter of Scott Brown. Didn't she sing the national anthem during one of the Republican primary debates?
She did, and she sang for Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, tonight begins the big media coverage for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know.
I can't wait. So who you picking for the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, who do you like in the Super Bowl, and then who are you picking in the Super Bowl? Those are two different things.
All right, so I am an Ohio native, and my Bengals killed themselves. I mean, talk about shooting yourself in the foot. It was our year, and we killed ourselves.
I know.
I'm a little bitter. It hurts. So I will admit, I'm actually leaning towards the Broncos.
Really?
I like Peyton Manning, and you know what? I would like to see him go out with one more win, and then call it. And say and go out and say, you know what, I did it right. Hey, it was great. Don't do another Brett Favre. Just hopefully you can win on a high note. And if not, you know what, I think it's going to be an amazing game.
I hope so. The Panthers right now, I think 3.5 to 5.5 point favorites. I mean, hard to shut down this guy Cam Newton.
Oh, he's amazing.
A couple of teams almost did so.
It's hard to shut down those pants he was wearing. What the heck?
What the heck was that? Jeez. It's like a man. I don't know. I can't imagine that. But what are you going to say? No respecting man would ever wear those pants. Well, how about a guy who's an incredible athlete?
Hey,
so he gets a little bit
Cam
of a pass
Newton
there.
can pull it off. I mean, he is.
Guy's a beast,
great,
man.
Great quarterback.
Hey, listen, before we let you go, one of the big things that has been in the news over the past week has been the use of money by one of the veterans-based charities. So I know that it's not you guys, but I know that is something that is scrutinized by many charities. And when people call and it's like the robocall, hey, I want you to give me money, I think people should always ask how much money is going to its administrative needs. Some of it has to. You got to pay people unless they're all volunteers. That's typically not the case. But it's been a lot in the news. Tell me how CVA and also Wounded Wear, how you guys approach that, the amount of money that goes towards the mission, and also administrative costs.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it in the news. A very large organization, and I was pretty blown away when I read $3 million just for a staff retreat. Being a Wounded Warrior, that's a hard thing to read. Also, being an organization that supports Wounded Warriors, I can't tell you how much I could do with $3 million. There's so many warriors that are struggling right now with traumatic brain injuries, with post-traumatic stress, and they're amazing non-pharmacological solutions, but they're expensive. Right here in Norfolk, we have the Renova Center. We have hyperbaric treatments. We are trying to send a warrior to that. It costs about $8,000 to send a warrior. So the money makes a difference. The bottom line is this. When you were looking at nonprofits, the first thing any nonprofit, you should go on, and there's two nonprofit watchdog groups. One is Charity Navigator. That's your bigger one, but you have to recognize that if an organization isn't making above $1 million a year in revenue, they are not going to be on Charity Navigator. The other one is GuideStar. GuideStar tracks everybody. And you want to make sure an organization has financial transparency, that they're putting all their information up there. You can go in and look at their 990s. Look at how much money the executive director makes. You are required by law within your 990 to list at a minimum your top 5 paid, especially if they're making over $100,000 a year. For us, the Combat Wounded Coalition, our goal is to try and be above, our mission and goal is to be above 90% towards mission and never allow it to go between 80%. Last year was a growth year for us. We moved into a bigger location in Greenbrier. Mm-hmm. So last year we finished up at 83% going to mission. Pretty good. those are the things that people should be looking for. And so I would love for anybody out there to support us. I'll tell you, you can go to combatwoundedcoalition.org. But at the end of the day, make sure that the organization you support has financial transparency and their money's going to where their mission is, because that is what you are donating to.
Before we come back around and make sure that people have all the information that they need to know for Friday night's event, the Defend Freedom Tour, which is going to be at Regent, is that correct?
Founders Inn.
Founders Inn, all right.
Yep, Founders Inn.
If people want to get a hold of your book, which is the Trident, the Forging and Reforging of a Navy SEAL Officer, where can they get the book? I'm assuming it's on Amazon.
It is on Amazon. You can Amazon, Barnes & Noble. If you would like a signed copy, you can go to my speaking company website, sofspoken.com. And just make sure you're writing the notes how you want me to personalize it, and I'll be glad to sign it and get that out to you. And if you want to support Wounded Warriors, a locally based charity that's making a big difference, go to combatwoundedcoalition.org.
And by the way, if people want a signed copy of my book, I actually stand out on Waterside Drive, and I beg you, I just beg you, please, please, please take my book. Please read my book, please. All right. If people want to find out more information about the event that is going to be Friday night, the Defend Freedom Tour, how do they get that information?
They can go to Concerned Veterans for America, cv4a.org, look up Defend Freedom Tour. We ask you to go on and just sign up. That's all that it costs to be a part of it. And that just lets us know how much food we need to order. And other than that, I hope to see you there. It truly is a great event. Karen Vaughn, Cody McGregor, myself will be speaking, Ayla Brown, Madison Rising. And it's just a great opportunity for veterans to get together and talk about the things that we should be talking about, which is strength, security, accountability for the leadership of this country, and for veterans to be involved. You cannot sit on the sidelines. If you wore a uniform, if you raised your hand, if you believe in this country, you need to be involved now, today.
Jason Redman, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks for all the work you do, and good luck raising all those kids, man. You're in the weeds.
Yeah, man.
You guys are busy, aren't you?
Neck deep. Yeah,
now boys or girls? What's the mix?
Older boy, 2 girls.
Oh, 2 girls.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Wait till the kids.
Lots of guns.
Oh, just
Strong
wait.